You have probably heard that 666 is the devil's number. But here is the part almost nobody tells you. 666 sits at the center of a classic solar formula in ceremonial magic. Add the numbers from 1 to 36, and you get 666. And 36 is not random. It is the number of cells in the sun's traditional magic square, a 6x6 grid that Renaissance magicians treated like a blueprint for solar force. That detail does not erase the Bible or cancel history. It proves something more unsettling. 666 is a battleground symbol, fought over for centuries, because it can point to very different things depending on who is reading it and why. Before we go further, notice your own reflex. When you see 666, do you feel fear, curiosity, disgust, excitement? Drop a comment with the first word that comes to mind. That reflex is exactly what this number has been triggering on purpose for a very long time. Long before the Book of Revelation, the number 6 already carried symbolic weight. 6 directions define space: north, south, east, west, above, below. In sacred geometry, 6 gives us the hexagon, the honeycomb pattern nature loves. And in Western esotericism, the 6-pointed star, the hexagram, becomes shorthand for a very old idea. As above, so below. 2 triangles interlocked, spirit and matter, heaven and earth, meeting in a single emblem. Even if you have never studied occultism, you have felt the psychology of 6: order, symmetry, form. So how does a symbol of harmony become the most infamous number in Christian imagination? We have to go to the late 1st century, into a world where empires did not just rule bodies, they ruled stories. In the Book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 18, we get that cryptic line: "Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. What is often missed is the verb, calculate. The author is pointing to a technique common in the ancient world, assigning numerical values to letters and adding them up. In Greek, it is isopsephy. In Hebrew, it is gematria. This was not spooky math. It was a cultural code. Early Christian writers noticed that. Irenaeus of Lyons, in Against Heresies, treats the number with caution. He does not say, "It is obviously Satan." He warns against rash guesses and reminds readers that names can be calculated in different ways. From the start, the number of the beast was not just a horror movie prop. It was a riddle meant to be solved. One of the most convincing solutions is tied to a man whose shadow haunted the early Christian world: Nero. When you write Nero Caesar in a Hebrew form and add the letter values, you can reach 666. Even more interesting, some ancient manuscripts give the number as 616 instead of 666, and that variant also aligns with a different spelling of Nero's name. To me, that is a strong clue we are dealing with code, not superstition. The beast is empire wearing sacred language like armor. Is that the true meaning? Historically, it is a major piece of the puzzle. But symbols do not stay in one place. They migrate. They get reinterpreted. They get weaponized. And when a symbol becomes emotionally radioactive, that is exactly when occultists pay attention, because charged symbols are powerful tools, whether you are trying to awaken someone or control them. By the Middle Ages and into the Renaissance, Western magic was collecting older streams: astrology, talismanic lore, Jewish mystical methods, Christian angelology, classical philosophy. This is where numbers become not just codes, but engines, ways to organize correspondences between the human psyche and the cosmos. In that world, 666 quietly develops a second identity: solar. And once you see it as solar, you start noticing how universal the sun archetype is. Different cultures gave it different faces. Shamash in Mesopotamia as judge and law, Ra in Egypt as the throne of life, Helios and Apollo in Greece as the all-seeing light. Surya in India as the radiant witness. The names vary, but the function rhymes. The sun reveals, unifies, and authorizes. In that sense, 666 starts looking less like a villain and more like a numeric lens people argue through. Here is the bridge. Ceremonial magic often treats planetary forces as symbolic channels of consciousness. The moon for reflection, Mercury for intellect, Venus for harmony, Mars for drive, Jupiter for expansion, Saturn for limits, and the sun as the center, vitality, clarity, coherence, sovereignty. In many manuals, each planet is assigned a magic square, later called a kamea. The sun's square is 6 by 6, filled with the numbers 1 through 36 arranged in a pattern. Add every number in that square and you get 666. The total is not a coincidence. It is the signature. Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, in 3 books of occult philosophy, discusses these numerical structures inside a wider language of correspondences. Numbers, planets, metals, colors, names. And this is where things get ironic. In the same cultural world where 666 was painted as pure evil, magicians were inscribing solar formulas that summed to 666 as a way of aligning with illumination and what you might call clean power. Not domination, clarity. Not cruelty, coherence. The sun, in occult language, is the force that integrates the personality so you are not pulled apart by your own contradictions. If you have ever met someone deep in inner work, therapy, meditation, disciplined practice, you have seen a version of solar magic without the robes. They become less reactive, more centered. Their yes means yes, their no means no. In my opinion, that is the most practical translation of the sun, integrity. And when I first understood that 666 can also be read as a solar total, I felt a strange relief, like a fear spell cracked. Not because revelation was wrong, but because I saw how symbols can be hijacked. Now bring in the Hermetic Qabalah, the Western esoteric adaptation of Kabbalistic ideas, and the solar meaning sharpens. On the tree of life, the sphere most commonly associated with the sun is Tiphereth, often translated as beauty. But beauty here is not cosmetic. It is proportion and harmony, the center where opposites reconcile. In many Hermetic teachings, Tiphereth is where the fragmented self begins to become a self, where your life stops being a pile of impulses and becomes an axis. That is why occultists talk about it as an inner sun. Writers like Dion Fortune and Israel Regardie describe this theme again and again. Real development is not about collecting weird experiences. It is about integration. The sun is not just power, it is responsibility. It is illumination that reveals your shadow at the same time. And that is the hidden warning inside the solar reading of 666. The same energy that makes you coherent can inflate you. A sun can give life, or it can scorch. There is also a shadow sun thread in later occult literature, the idea that the solar current can invert into spiritual pride, obsession with status, the need to be seen. Some writers link 666 to that distortion, sometimes naming Sorath, framed as a scorching intelligence rather than a nurturing light. Psychologically, it is spot on. The sun that integrates can also inflate. So why do initiatory orders and secret societies keep playing with numbers like this? The plain answer is because it works. Numbers compress meaning. They let you store a teaching in a repeatable symbol. They create layers, a surface meaning for outsiders and a deeper meaning for those who have done the work. And they act as a filter. If someone cannot move past reflexive fear of a number, they probably are not ready to handle the ethical weight of symbolism and power, because fear is easy to steer. That is also why 666 became a perfect lightning rod in modern occultism, especially through Aleister Crowley. Crowley embraced the title to Megatherion, the Great Beast, and signed with 666 turning the number into a deliberate provocation. For him, it was not about worshipping evil. It was about detonating hypocrisy and forcing a confrontation with the shadow side of religious language. Whether you admire him or dislike him, Crowley understood this. Society hands you symbols loaded with panic, and you can either be conditioned by them or you can reframe them. But if you try to wear a symbol like armor before you have mastered yourself, the symbol wears you. Here is a grounded way. Experienced practitioners apply this without superstition. They treat 666 as a reminder of the solar test. Are you pursuing clarity or attention? Are you cultivating genuine authority or feeding the ego? They will use solar correspondences, gold as highest value, Sunday as a day for self-examination, prayer or meditation, aimed at integrity, not spectacle. In ceremonial contexts, that can include solar hymns or divine names used as contemplative anchors. The point is not thrills. The point is to tune the instrument, the human being, so actions match values. That is high magic in its most honest form. Inner alignment that changes outer life. And now we can answer the question people ask, but rarely like this. What is the true meaning of 666? Historically, it is a cipher aimed at human power, empire, propaganda, the beastly machinery that turns souls into numbers. Symbolically, it is the number of man when man mistakes himself for God. And occultly, it is also a solar signature, the mathematical fingerprint of the 6x6 sun square, pointing to illumination, integration, and the temptation of egoic sovereignty. It is not one meaning. It is a spectrum, a mirror that reflects the level of the reader. If you have made it this far, let me ask you something that turns listening into real study. Do you think symbols have power on their own? Or do they only have power because the human mind invests them with emotion and belief? Tell me what you think in the comments. And if you can, give one example from your own life, a number, a word, a song that clearly changes your state. Now let us close the circle back where we started. 1 through 36 equals 666. The sun's square holds those 36 numbers. The number that got painted as a mark of ultimate darkness is, in another lineage, literally the sum of a solar order. That does not make revelation false. It makes the symbol more honest, because the real battle was never between a spooky devil number and a holy number. The battle was always over consciousness. Whether you can see through the spell of panic and choose clarity instead. In the end, 666 asks a question that is uncomfortable precisely because it is practical. What rules you, fear or illumination? And the moment you answer that, you will understand why this number has been used to terrify crowds, and why, behind closed doors, it has also been used as a map back to the inner sun.